Hello and welcome to the Common Legend again. I'm Sean, and today my guest is Adam Mantis Underwood.
No, we can get to that later.
Okay,
all right. It's just Adam Underwood.
My guest is Adam Underwood.
Yes.
My tattoo artist, local artist, amazing artist.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for being here, Adam. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah. So, Adam, where are you from?
I'm from South Minneapolis.
Born and raised?
Born and raised, yes.
You went to South High then?
I did go to South High.
You did?
Yes.
What year did you graduate?
95. I actually started at Washburn and then went there my freshman year and then went to South after that. So
okay. And South is where actually we get a connection. That's where you know my sister from, right? Is South?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was wild.
Yes.
Because we met, I just walked into, was it Mutiny at the time?
Mutiny Tattoo.
Mutiny Tattoo. And met you and they were like, oh my God, you know my sister.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I've religiously been coming to you for the last decade for
Well,
tattoos.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, yeah. Got to show the love and respect. So how old are you, Ed?
I am 48 years old.
You don't look a day over 40.
Bullshit. I feel 2,000 years old. But thank you.
Yeah. So do you still live in the cities then right now?
I do. I just live over in Northeast Minneapolis.
Okay, so just a hop skip.
Yep.
away.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about a 15-minute drive here. So.
You got a house then? Or?
No, it's like an apartment.
Okay.
Yep. It's a
Live
big
by
apartment.
yourself?
Yep, I do.
Not married?
Not married. No, just me and my dog.
Okay. Any other family in the cities you got? Or is it small?
Well,
or?
I have my son, but he lives mostly in like out in the Woodbury area over there.
Okay.
Yep.
With his mother?
Yep.
And I know you just took a trip to Ireland with your son. Super amazing.
Yes, that was good.
How was that? You were there for like a month, right?
No, not quite that long.
Okay.
We were there for a couple of weeks, but wanted to be, it was tough. It was a great trip, but it was also tough because my son is like, I think we went to Japan the year before, and he really loved Japan. He's a total, he nerded out over it. Ireland was a little bit different. I think he was a little bored with it.
A little more, cigarettes and whiskey then.
But I love it. It was the second time I'd been there.
Yeah.
And it was a great trip overall.
It looks beautiful. I saw some of the pictures. Like, what was the highlight?
Oh, man.
Like top three.
Probably the Giant's Causeway. Up in Northern Ireland. It's just this formation of rocks. They almost look hexagonal, I think is the word.
Like
term.
geometrical? Or?
Yeah. Look it up. It's really cool.
Okay.
I think it's been in like Game of Thrones and shit like that. So
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Sweet.
That was cool.
So that was like the location highlight. Was there like a meal highlight or like
Man, so many.
Yeah.
Lots of like good like stews and like seafood pie and stuff like that. Yeah.
seafood pie?
Yeah, it's like shepherd's pie, but with like think of like clam chowder, but in a shepherd pie sort of
Okay.
fashion.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's good.
Lots of hearty meat and potatoes and
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it is here though too. Like every town, every city has plenty of pubs and restaurants.
Right.
Yep. If you want McDonald's, you have no problem finding one.
yeah.
Yep.
So you're a tattoo artist, and like, how long have you been doing this? Because it's been a while.
Yeah. If you want to like start.
Yeah, from the very beginning. What was your origin story? Like your Chemical X?
I've always been an artist and illustrator, and in my early 20s, I got my first tattoo. Actually, when I was 18, I got my first tattoo. But then I wanted to be a tattoo artist. I loved it. I thought it was super cool. I thought it was a great experience. And so I kind of tried finding an apprenticeship, and it didn't really work out at the time. So then somebody gave me a tattoo machine and a bunch of supplies and a bunch of books. And I dug into it and started tattooing my friends. And
Legally, of course, right?
no, not legally. I mean, the laws were even different about tattooing back then. This was probably in like 1998 when I was doing that. And then I learned pretty quickly I sucked. And I wasn't going to get any better just from practice. That was sort of my mindset. And so then I gave it up. And then many years later, I was offered an apprenticeship. Many years later, I gave up on it for
You
a
completely
long time.
gave up, and then an apprenticeship out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was about 10 years later. Yeah, yep.
Okay, and you weren't even in the mindset of I want to be a tattoo artist anymore, and someone was just like,
Yeah, I ended up like finishing school. I didn't finish school all the way, but and then I got a job working in the medical field with UHS, and I delivered medical equipment, and then ended up eventually working at Fairview. And then eventually I was laid off. And when I was laid off, I got a phone call from a gal that knew me when I was trying to do tattoos and asked if I was doing it. And I said no. And so then she got me in touch with her husband's husband, and they took me on as apprentice. And that's the end of the story.
You answered the call.
Yeah.
Like you gave up and they were
Yes.
like, we need you back.
Yes. And I hated my other job, and I didn't want to go back to that or the field of it. And
Yeah.
it was perfect timing. So
That's awesome.
Yep.
And then, so you started as an apprentice, and how long did you apprentice for then?
apprenticed for, I think, almost 2 years. And then it never really ended. I continued tattooing in that shop for a few years after, and then things went south. and then I moved on, and then shortly, that's when I first tattooed you.
Right after it was Mutiny, so shortly after?
Well, a couple of years after
Okay,
I started. Yep.
And you say something went south. I know, like, tattoo shops are kind of like a reality show, right?
Yeah.
It's a kitchen, it's a family, so
Yeah.
things can get heated.
Yeah.
So something hit the fan.
Yeah, my mentor was a jerk. nothing to it, and he was an alcoholic and kind of destroyed the business. It's no longer there. It's kind of a shame. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah,
in
no
the
names,
shop, but
fine,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
So then from Mutiny, you've been a lot of places: Rose in No Man's Land, Broken
Yep.
Hearts, Brass Knuckle, Uptown Tattoo.
Never worked at Uptown Tattoo.
What?
Just Brass Knuckle.
You weren't at Uptown? Isn't that the where I got my throat? What is it?
No, that Lower Town Tattoo.
Lower Town.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's in Uptown though.
Yeah, no, it's in Lower Town.
That's Lower Town.
Yeah, St. Paul.
Dinky's. No. Lower. Wait.
Oh, that was Dinkytown. I did your throat. Sorry.
Was that Dinkytown was Uptown Tattoo though, right?
No, Dinkytown is Dinkytown.
Dinkytown Tattoo.
Yes.
Okay. Oh shit.
That's all right.
I had a little brain fart.
No worries.
And now you're at Lower Town, which is like your cut. Like
Well, Jeannie opened it up. She asked me if I wanted to do it with her, and we said sure. She's actually technically the owner, but yeah, her and I started it, and now we have a couple other coworkers too.
so it took from like apprenticeship to now it's like 20 years, and you have your own shop.
Oh God, it's not like my own shop.
Well, it's like a collective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Whoops. That's
all
my
good.
phone. I'm gonna grab that. Thanks.
There you go.
Yep.
So it's a collective. So I mean that's awesome. I mean, I know it's like your shop. I
Yeah.
mean, would you even want like your own shop?
No. I mean, what the system now is kind of like a private studio in the sense of like you just sort of rent your chair and run independently. Then there's like sort of a shop where you have like a typical walk-in shop, and that's kind of a different dynamic where an owner really has to be responsible for a lot of things. In a private studio, all the artists are just kind of responsible for themselves.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's almost like cosmetology, where like you have like your own private. You rent a chair,
Exactly.
and then you're your business. People are coming to you.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, recently there's been kind of the shift in people who want tattoos where they look for the artist. It's not like I just want to walk in and get a tattoo. They're like, I want it from this person and I want this from that person. Like they're very dedicated.
Yep.
So that must make it easier to kind of thrive in this kind of collective setting.
Yeah, it's I mean, each has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
But at this point where I'm at my age and how long I've been doing this, I fortunate enough to have a good clientele that I don't have to rely on people walking in. And it's just a whole different rat race. It's a lot more calm and chill.
It seems a lot better though.
Yeah. Yep.
So Jeannie started it. Where'd you meet Jeannie?
She actually worked at Mutiny Tattoo at one point as well, before I did.
Really?
And then we just kind of known each other through tattooing over the years. And then when she worked at Dinkytown when I started there a couple years back. So, yep. And then we've just been friends for a while.
And then you're just shooting the shit, and you're like,
Yeah, she asked me if I wanted to do that. She wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet, and I kind of thought about it, and I said, "Do it, go for it." And she did, and she took me with her.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
And you opened back in August of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, just this previous August,
Just a couple months ago.
Yep.
So how you been doing since August?
Great. I love it. Yeah,
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's a beautiful space.
Although today our heat wasn't working, so hopefully that's gonna get figured out.
Those older buildings.
Yes.
My water heater's out right now. I've been
Wonderful.
taking cold showers for 4 weeks.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Christmas was a rough time. So I wanted to ask you something about. So the business opened in August, but just before that, you were down in New Orleans for Jeannie's wedding, like literally weeks before.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was like completely prepared to take on marriage on top of like opening this collective.
Yeah, we're probably not going to talk. She's a very private person.
Yep, out of there.
Yep,
Yep,
we're gonna
86.
stop. Yep.
So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a new beautiful space, and I love that art brought us together. I still remember walking in. You weren't the first artist there. I got tattooed. I got my scorpions from John. If you remember
John. Yep. I remember John.
And then I stole away one of your counter girls. Michelle.
From Broken Hearts, right?
Yeah.
Redheaded gal.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like we have a little history,
Little connection.
connection.
Yeah.
I still remember fondly, and tell me if I can't put this in here. I'd made a fresh batch of pop brownies after a tattoo session.
Yeah, we can talk about
that I gifted you.
Yeah.
And I still remember fondly you messaging me about your experience with that pop brownie.
Yeah.
You want to tell that story?
Yeah, despite I'm like I never really had edibles before. It was kind of a new concept to me, and I ate it and did the same thing that a lot of people do, where I didn't quite feel it, so I ate the rest, and it was way more potent than I expected, and had kind of a psychological meltdown like 2 a.m. It was great.
I heard you maybe made your way onto a rooftop or something and called a girlfriend, or
I was walking around the streets calling a girlfriend, trying to get her to calm me down, but it might have been
I might be misremembering, but I remember vaguely you saying something about I was on my roof or something.
Oh
freaking
yeah,
out.
yeah. Oh yeah, I was on the roof of the garage. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just sitting out there. But then I was also pacing around. It wasn't just a 10-minute thing. It lasted for a few hours. So
That story will forever have a place in my heart.
Yes, great.
That's good. And so I remember most recently, I haven't seen you in like maybe 6-7 years.
Sure.
I took a little break. Life kind of hit me really fast. But in that time between seeing you, I had heard a rumor about you having a stroke. And we kind of talked about that, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a stroke.
No, it wasn't a stroke. It was, well, there's 2 things that could have led to people thinking I had a stroke. I had Bell's palsy during COVID. I think it was 2020 in the summer or fall of 2020. My mom shortly before that passed away. And then like one day I was like brushing my teeth before bed, and half my face just slumped down, and I thought I was having a stroke, but it was just Bell's palsy, which is just half your face is just literally paralyzed. And I had it really bad. I couldn't close my eye or anything, but I was perfectly fine. But then a year later, I had a pulmonary embolism, and and people heard about that. So I think somehow the rumor
They
crossed. Yes. Yep.
Well, also like the paralysis that's kind of stroke-ish.
Oh yeah, that's a sign of stroke. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what is a pulmonary embolism then again? Remind me.
It's a blood clot that gets caught in a portion of my lung. So. Yep.
Rough, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I heard the rumor of you having a stroke, I was like, his career. I was like,
no.
The artist who had a stroke. Like, I was like, oh my god.
I mean, both of them affected my career quite a bit, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when I had the Bell's palsy, I couldn't close my eye, so it would just tear constantly, and so I'd have to tape my eye shut and then try. I couldn't really tattoo with one eye; that my depth perception was off.
Right.
So then that lasted a couple months. Like it sucked. And
That's
then,
scary.
And then it went away. And just like one day, I felt my
like,
corner.
oh.
I felt the corner of my mouth move. I'm like, I'm coming back.
And we're back, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was just facial. There wasn't. There's
Just
not any.
no other
extremities.
effects. Nope. It's pretty common. It happens to I think 1 in 40,000 people.
Okay.
Yep. It's just random. They don't. It's just if you ever look at a skull. Back here, you'll see a tiny little hole, and that's where the nerve comes out that feeds your face, your facial muscles, and that gets inflamed, and it pinches that nerve, and then your face goes dead.
It just happened.
Some people get it to varying degrees. I had full paralysis, which some people only get it like 40%. It was total paralysis. Yep.
That's terrifying.
It
I would
sucked.
be freaking out.
It sucked. Yeah, I had to drink out of a straw. I had to eat with my head tilted back, otherwise food would just fall out. Yeah, it sucked.
Did you wear an eye patch at any point?
I had to.
Pirate?
Yeah, I did. Well, it was either wear an eye patch or I had to tape my eye shut, and it just looked really fucked up. So
Right.
I put an eye patch on. It actually did help block out the light too.
I mean, you should. I mean, I would have gotten a custom patch. I would have rocked. I would have leaned into it.
Well, the eye patch thing was a bigger ordeal than you'd think. So, like, I went out to Walgreens and got one, and it was the most uncomfortable thing ever.
Generic piece of shit.
The girl I was dating, like, tried making me one, and it just didn't fit quite right. It just wouldn't stay on. And then my buddy BJ found a website, and I think he bought one for me, and they were really nice.
Like a
They're
nice one.
$80, and it fit perfectly.
Like,
yeah, it was great.
So it's
Yeah.
worth the investment.
But yeah, they're not that easy to find. You know, if
Yeah.
you need one and you're looking for one, you're like, this isn't an easy task.
I've never had to look.
Yes,
but, you
that's
know,
what I'm saying.
I'm sure Etsy. I'm sure there's a whole market
Yes.
for like custom.
Yeah, it
patches.
might have been like an Etsy type of thing.
Totally.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you touched briefly about losing your mother at the beginning of COVID. I can personally relate because I lost my mother just before COVID.
Yeah.
And for me, the 1-2 punch of losing your mom. I don't know if were you close with your mom?
Yep.
Yeah. It was really tough. It's actually my mom's birthday today, so
Happy birthday.
drink to the mom.
My mother's birthday was on the 29th, so yeah, pretty
December?
recent. Yep.
Oh wow. Okay. So like, what was the hardest part about that KO?
I would say, my mom was always the person I called when something was rough, where I was feeling shitty.
Yeah.
And I often talked to her in my car when I was driving, and so it made driving really weird for me. Like, oftentimes I would want to just hit the button, call mom, and that was hard. Like, knowing she was just not there, and it like at first I was in shock, and the world was chaotic at the time because she
was.
Yeah, I mean, she passed in May 4th of 2020, so like COVID just started, and people were dying everywhere, and there was like it was a bad time.
The timing,
yeah,
man.
yeah, timing was
Yeah, it's right. I understand that. Like the driving and calling your mom thing really rings home with me.
Yep.
Losing your biggest supporter, your
Yep.
safety net, your biggest cheerleader.
Yep.
It can be rough.
Yep.
And with COVID, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so like she couldn't have like a proper funeral and all that at the time because it was before the vaccinations came out. Everything was shut down, locked down. I wasn't working, just sitting at home, living with it.
Just soaking it in.
Yeah. And I'm kind of the person that shit's going bad. I like to kind of stay busy to get my mind off of it for a
I'm
bit.
the same way.
Yeah,
Yep. I worked all through my mother's stuff.
Yep.
Well, that transitions next into what I want to talk about is the impact, with COVID, mental health crises skyrocketed.
Yes.
And so going through a stressful, traumatic life event like losing your mother on top of a destabilizing event like COVID, where then you're alone in your apartment, deal with it.
Yep.
Did mental health spike? Have you ever struggled with any mental health
Oh,
issues?
for sure. I'm just kind of getting around to addressing it a little bit. I mean, on top of COVID and all that, then I was hit with, the pulmonary embolism was very serious. It could have killed me. So, and dealing with the aftermath of that was really jarring. And yeah, I'm working. I'm just like a little too late, maybe, but I'm working on my mental health.
It's never too late.
And I notice. I mean, and I see it in everyone. So it's like this world is going through like a big traumatic event together, and I don't think anyone recognizes how bad it is. So. But at least, I'm trying my part. So
Yeah. No, I totally get you. Once you take those rose-tinted glasses off, it's like you see everyone.
Yes.
And it's like the Matrix. They're all code.
Yes.
And you're like, we're all going through it.
Yep.
So, like, what was the hardest for you? Was it anxiety, depression? What impacted you most?
Anxiety, for sure.
Yeah.
It made me just not want to be around. Well, I think that's a combination of so I think my sort of, I'm kind of a recluse, and I think the reason I'm a recluse is not just because of COVID or anything like that. I think it has to do with my job, honestly. I'm kind of an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert, where I'm a little extroverted with people I know I'm comfortable with, but it came from I don't know, tattooing, where it's very intimate and you're talking, you're one-on-one with somebody all day, or in a busy shop where there's just many people all day. It made me want to, at the end of the day, not want to be around anyone. And I'm an only child, so I don't have siblings. And so, like, I've always been that way where, like, my safe space is alone.
Yeah.
So I probably dealt with the lockdowns of COVID better than most people. I actually loved it.
I loved it too. It's like, leave me alone.
I actually loved it and unaware of all the bad effects that would come.
Right,
but
yeah.
I loved it for the time. And but then my mother passed, and then the George Floyd riots, and then everything changed.
Oh my God! Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Holy crap! Yeah, it was like,
yep, everything just kind of piled on, and it was really gnarly. Personally, for me, the 4-year stretch between 2020 and now has just been insane, and I feel like everybody else can relate.
Yeah.
And so I don't. I try to be as sympathetic to other people right now, and that's because people piss me off or they say or do stupid shit, and I try to like kind of remind myself like they're going through it.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a powerful thing.
Yes.
And like you nailed it. Like you've seen the memes going around where the memes about like the jump from 2020 to 2024. Everyone's like, "What happened?" Like there's a dozen memes.
Yep.
So it's really rattled everyone. Like,
Yep.
it's a phase shift. We might have jumped timelines. There's a lot of theories.
Yeah. Well, I think people need to come to terms with it, and it's not even preachy because I'm guilty of it too. But I think people really just need to look at it and say, "Yeah, we have a big problem."
It was a trauma.
Yeah,
we have a collective PTSD from this event.
Yep, and it only fractures social cohesion. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So stop me if you don't want to talk about this, but you mentioned briefly that you experienced a psychosis or psychotic symptoms
Oh yeah.
of auditory hallucinations.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yeah. So like kind of, I'm trying to think of when it started. A year and a half ago or whatever. I just started hearing mumbling. It sounded like mumbling. I'd lay in bed trying to go to sleep, and it sounded like mumbling from the next room, like people talking. And I never heard voices. But I panicked. I freaked out and made an appointment with my doctor, and I thought I probably had schizophrenia or something like that. But no, it's just auditory hallucinations from traumatic events.
Yeah.
That's
It's a lot more common than people think.
And that's when I really it was kind of eye-opening. That's where it's like, yeah, you've been through some shit. You need to acknowledge
Yeah.
it. And I've always been one to just sort of the stiff upper lip, just keep going. And I didn't, I wasn't addressing the heavy shit that was happening in my life. So,
And I've experienced that also. And I know how scary that feeling is when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm hearing something that's not there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand it's more common than you may think.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not necessarily linked to schizoaffective or schizophrenic disorders.
No, not at all. I mean, it was kind of assured due to my age. And like you said, it's never happened before. They're like, you're not a schizophrenic. Yeah.
You would have already been.
They ruled that out immediately.
Yeah.
And then I learned a little bit about like other things that, you kind of tick through the reasons that auditory hallucinations happen. And there's many of them. And I ended up learning that other people I knew have had them. And so like besides you, I can tick off like another 4 people that I know that have been through that. And it was all of them had some traumatic point in their life.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's funny you say you can tick off boxes, but it's something people don't like to talk about.
Yes.
Even if they've experienced it.
Yep.
It's almost shameful.
Sure. I felt so. I mean, I didn't tell anybody for a long time because like it took me a while. It wasn't like I called my doctor and then I had that appointment. I called my doctor. I talked to my doctor and then made an appointment like 4 months later.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had to kind of live with it for a while, and I didn't tell anybody. I kept that completely to myself. And I remember thinking like it didn't accompany like paranoid thoughts with like some people get. I just heard it kind of like a tinnitus or like they tested me for that too.
Okay.
It was freaky, and I was kind of ashamed of it. You're right.
Right.
You're
yeah.
right.
No,
You're
but
right.
I'm just like, why do you think that is? Because I was too. Like,
well, because you don't want to. I think it's a self-denial thing. You don't want to come to the grips that you might be crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
you don't want to admit you're crazy.
You don't want to admit you're crazy. Yeah.
Totally. But there's levels to it. I mean, I still use crazy, but I hate crazy because I've been crazy.
Yeah.
You've observed a little bit of my crazy.
Yep.
But it's a spectrum. And as long as you're questioning if you're sane, that's what matters.
If I refer to somebody as being crazy, I do mean it in the literal sense. So I don't like using that term colloquially and just saying, "Oh, he's being crazy."
you're crazy.
Yeah. If I say he's acting crazy, I
He's off the
literally mean
rocker.
he's acting crazy. Yeah.
He snaps.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for so much for talking about that. I know it's a really soft topic for a lot of people, myself included, but it's really important for people to hear about.
If people hear about it, they might feel more comfortable to address it in their own
Kill the
lives.
stigma.
Right. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. So on that relation with mental health, and I just want to pivot into like addiction, substance abuse. Have you ever struggled with any of that throughout your life?
Fortunately, I've been pretty good. I've had periods in my life where I drank a lot, partied, did drugs, cocaine, acid, shrooms, all that. Some of it probably in excess at some points in my life, but no. I shortly after, I think it was like right after my son was born, I quit smoking weed, and then I drank, but I'd never really been a big drinker since my early 20s. And fortunate because I've watched addiction hit a lot of people around me. Yeah. So, and I think it scares me. I sometimes check myself if I feel like I've been drinking too much lately. Yeah. I go, have I? I start questioning it.
Yeah.
But no. As far as I know, no.
Yeah. And like that's I like that you
cigarettes.
Well, okay, so caffeine, nicotine,
and,
but but like in the grander scheme, I like that you put it that way. Like I've done stuff and I've had months where I was maybe drinking too much or partying too much, but you never like fell down that slope.
No, I mean, I learned a lot about addiction watching some of my best friends go through it. Yeah. And seeing them go through it, hit their very rock bottom and crawl their way back out of it, and learned a lot about sort of what that call is like. And I've never ever needed something. And, I've definitely had days where I come home and go, oh, I'm going to have a drink. Yeah. But it wouldn't be to the point where, if I came home and I wanted a drink and I realized I was out of alcohol, I doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get in my car and go get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have those checks and balances in place from personal experience really close to you.
Oh, I'm very regimented. I think this might be autism or something, but I always have 2 drinks. And then once in a great while, I'll have 3 drinks.
Oh yeah.
Yep. That's how I do it.
So if I see 3 drink Adam, it's a special occasion.
Yes. I had 3 drinks on New Year's Eve. Yep. I just get such bad hangovers. I don't try to push it past a point.
I know, man. Once you hit 30, tequila. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
That's my anti-hangover drink.
Yeah.
I heard
vodka for me.
It's vodka. Yeah. I've heard because of agave and tequila, the sugars processed differently, so it might mean I'm pre-diabetic. But you might try out tequila.
I am not a fan of tequila. No? I like vodka.
You like vodka?
Yep.
Yeah, that's my go-to nowadays.
Vodka martini. That's what I drink.
And you mentioned like with the birth of your son being like a huge rock for you in like your fortitude. Your determination to stay right and stay on the path. And the same thing happened to me at the birth of my child. Like you find yourself faced with decisions and you're like, your kid comes up in your head.
Yeah. You have a responsibility now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Some people don't think like that.
Yep.
So that's huge.
It is huge. I've seen that. Yeah. It sucks.
Is it still a thing? Like even though, and he's grown, he's an adult now.
Yeah.
Is it still like, even now that he's left the nest, so to say, does he still like guide your moral compass or your...
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, my son and I have a great relationship. So like, that's why we had such a great time traveling. Yeah, he's a good travel buddy. But, yeah, I mean, there's always a level of responsibility if you feel like you have over your kids, no matter probably how old. I mean, even when he's 30 years old, I'll probably feel that way. So, yeah.
That's awesome. There's a lot of piece of shit people out there who don't even want to see their kids. So I'm curious, like when I meet a nice dad who's actually traveling with their son, something I'd love to do in the future.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Yeah, our trip to Japan was like the best thing ever. It's like when I'm laying on my deathbed, I'll remember that trip. Yeah,
you're gonna be like sushi,
yes.
or sashimi. So Japan, okay, what was your favorite dish or favorite experience in Japan from that trip?
Oh man, my favorite part, I think I really liked Osaka Castle because it was full of it. It's turned into a museum, and it's just full of history. And I don't know, it just felt really cool being in there. And it's really old, and they still have moats around the castle. and I'd never really seen a real moat before in my
I
life.
don't think I have.
Because I thought about like I knew what a moat was in my head, and I always thought like it didn't seem like it was that effective. But after seeing what real moats look like,
They're like huge, right?
They're massive. Yeah, they're big and they're really tall. Like they're like 50 feet tall, like to where the water is. So
Okay.
Then you realize like, oh yeah, this would be effective at keeping the enemy out. Yes.
So like that's why I've been to China and I saw like the Great Wall and the terracotta soldiers, and I think I had the same feeling where you're like, oh my god, heritage, history, something we really don't have here in America.
No, we have we not in Minnesota. Yeah,
we're making it as we go.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have a really important question for you.
Sure.
Why have you never posted a single one of my tattoos on your social media?
Oh, I barely post tattoos at all.
No.
I'm bad.
No, yeah.
I'm bad. This is something that has always been a problem with me is posting tattoos. You're not the first person to ask me that question.
Am I the first person to ask you formally?
No. My answer is always this, and I've heard this. I started kind of, I'm a little bit older, so the social media game is not my thing, for one.
You're doing good.
Isn't it? Well, yeah. I mean, this is kind of like weird and righteous shit, but I am not somebody that craves attention, right? And so social media sort of, the attention is the currency.
Yeah.
And so it's something I struggle with. I don't bother to learn how it works, like the algorithms and stuff like that. And, but the thing I've learned over the last couple of years is that it's not really changed my business, and maybe it has. Maybe if I had a better presence on there, but about not post. Sorry, I was going to get back to that. Not about
no, continue.
why I didn't post your tattoos. You have to understand that I tattoo every day, and I post I post one tattoo a month, maybe, right? And it usually is based on the ability of me to get a good photograph. That's really it. If you want, now that yours is all healed up, come on down and we'll get a good photo. Yes, I'll post it just for you. That's usually what it boils down to, because there's a lot of tattoos that I've done that I'm very, very proud of, and then I try to take a photo and I just hate the photograph. Yeah. It just doesn't have the magic. Yeah. And so, and like I get it. Like if I came up right now, if I was a first-year tattooer right now, I'd be posting everything I do. Yeah. But I've been at it long enough. I started before Instagram was even a thing.
Right.
So, and I've done okay since. So I actually hate social media.
I hate social
I'm
media.
Very
so
anti-social media.
It sucks that it's so ingrained in
our
culture.
And I hate the fact that I have any social media presence.
But you kind of have to.
If I didn't tattoo, I'd delete all of it. Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
You kind of have to.
Yep.
So when you say like it's attention seeking, for sure, it's almost narcissistic vanity, which is normal. But do you think that your disposition towards it is like just in your nature, or do you think it might be more generationally because like you were kind of growing up like just ahead of the curve with social media?
Yeah, I think it's more of a personal belief system. I think it's I don't fault anyone else for doing that. I just think I see social media, because so many people spend so much time online, that it is its own culture. And I don't want to be a part of it. It's not the culture I'm into.
Dude, totally.
Yeah.
On that topic, what do you think the impact of social media is having on just society's mental health in general? Do you think it's a net negative or positive?
Oh, negative. Well, so there's a lot of positives to the internet and even social media. There are some positives, but I think the problem is where the monetization of it is. It's where the incentives are. It's the dopamine hit that it gives you when you get a notification. The model is built on addiction.
They're literally hiring psychiatrists to help develop these apps.
Yes. And then with that is, I think it goes beyond social media. I think we have an information problem in this country. People aren't getting proper, vetted information, and social media causes people to get in these confirmation bubbles where they're just and they're just stuck hearing voices that agree with them, and they tend to believe that outside voices are, not to get political or even bad, but they're wrong because they're the majority. You have all these people that think they're majority, and we don't know what the majority is sometimes.
There is no majority anywhere out there.
I mean, look at the last election. People,
a
lot of people
there was
thought,
a majority there.
Yeah, a lot of people thought there was a majority on the other side. So.
Yep. I knew it was going to happen.
I wasn't. I wasn't absolutely certain. I had a prediction, but I'll admit I was wrong.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was right about it the first time he won.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was on my birthday. It sucked. I was in Portland. It was an amazing trip.
Yeah.
It ruined everything.
Yeah.
But after the attempt, I was like, I looked through history. I was like, every attempt made on a candidate, they win.
I wanted better, but I'll put it this way: I was disappointed, but I wasn't shocked. I thought but I mean, it just proves that there's an information problem in this country. That's what I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
this is evidence of a systemic problem.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we won't get too.
It gets a little dark,
political. Yeah. It's not
back to social media. I'll say.
Yeah.
There are good aspects of it because it does allow a lot of people to connect that are sometimes otherwise unable to.
Introverted or recluse.
Well, introverted, reclusive, or handicapped, or whatever, or isolated in situations they can't get out of. I mean, the internet and social media has been a beacon of freedom in other parts of the world. So it's a little obtuse to just think of our little bubble in America and what it does here. So
as we tend to do, though.
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't know. We're part of the first. We're like the studies haven't came out yet. I'm sure in like 100 years there's gonna be so many laws and regulations around this stuff.
Well, that's sort of the problem with it all. It's going to be hard to create laws and regulations around things that are deemed as a free speech, and I think there needs to be laws and regulations regarding algorithms and incentivizing internet. Yep.
100%.
Yep.
So what do you feel about the current legal battle with TikTok against the U.S. government and the first social media ban potentially?
I think it's really complex. I look at TikTok. I worry about what I see on TikTok is I see lots of ads for lots of small electronic products, right?
Probably Chinese in origin.
Yeah. And I see lots of sticks that have emulators on them, play every video game, everything, little recorders, little devices that are all these electronic items. Yeah. And I go, and I'm not a sucker, and I love spy shit, and I understand
hidden
the world.
Cameras and stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's so much to learn from metadata. I mean, I don't think my personal life and my online activities are going to be groundbreaking or appealing to some spy or hacker, but the collective data showing what behaviors that Americans do and where they lean and where they shop and where they buy and where they go and what they look at and what they see is all very valuable. And so it goes back to social media.
It's like what they say: social media companies are data mining companies. That's
Yep.
what they're in the market for.
When you don't pay for the product, you are
ask
the product.
why.
Yes. You're the product.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. We are in an information era.
Yep.
And I like that you touched on that of like, we're in this time where like we have the most information ever. We're the most informed, but also the most like disillusioned generation in history.
Yeah. I mean, you think about this argument, like I can't think of a time where anyone around me or in the zeitgeist complained more about First Amendment than in the last few years about how our First Amendment is being threatened. And we've never lived in a time where you have the most First Amendment you've ever had. If you were just a quack in Arkansas 50 years ago, you weren't able to. You had just as much. You had less free speech than you do now, or you could just announce it to the world and create a fan base. And so I think it's such a dumb argument, this freedom of speech shit. And I think it's clear a lot of people don't know what the First Amendment actually is.
A lot of people don't know shit.
Yep.
So do you think the TikTok ban is going to go through?
Oh, back to TikTok. I think if it does, I understand why. I think if there's a lot of intel and knowing what's behind it and why it's being banned, if that pans out as true, that it's about Chinese threats, I think that's a good reason. I mean, if these drones in the sky turn out to be Chinese drones. I mean, if they're doing this show of force type thing, like with the balloons and all that, maybe it's a good reason not to. Who knows if they know more than we do, and they don't want to tip their hat. So, but if it is TikTok, it really is just this innocuous app, then I think what's going to happen, I think it is bad. I think TikTok is data mining, and I think
absolutely,
and I think Trump will take a fat dollar to I don't think the ban's going to go through because of it.
Yeah, or if it does, I think he's going to appeal it.
Yeah.
Like, because you saw him say he realizes TikTok is a big portion to why he got elected.
Yes, it is.
So,
yep.
yeah.
So I think he'll save it. But I think, you know, a lot of people were upset about TikTok being banned because they feel like it's a free speech issue. But I'm like, do you remember life before TikTok? Because I do. It wasn't that long ago. It was fine. It wasn't that fucking long ago. Yeah.
Go post reels on Facebook or Instagram. Like, you're going to be just fine, kid.
It'll be okay.
Oh my God, I'm sorry you might not make $1,000 this month. Like,
yeah, the people that are upset are the people who are making money off.
It's the creators.
Yep.
And honestly, diversify.
And I get it. I mean, there's threats to the tattoo world too, and so you want to protect it. So I get it.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think it might go through, and then Trump will repeal it. Like that. I think that's what my money's on.
Whatever happens, I think TikTok it does have something unique about its algorithms, though. I will give it that. As somebody who browses social media and lurks, I'm a big lurker though.
Oh, they know you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get constant like big titty girls like I see on Instagram. I mean, my TikTok is mostly dog videos and food.
Dude, so it's my
yeah. And Karens or just people in general losing their shit.
Yeah.
I do take.
There's something that makes you feel so stable and grounded when you see someone so unstable.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Okay, I had like a really great follow-up for that. So you said, possibly if quote unquote TikTok is not malicious, if it's really just this harmless app, but China, the developing country of this, and they're not really known to be the most creative or freedom expression
or transparent
especially when it comes to social media.
Yes.
So
yeah. If it get rid of it all you want. I mean, like, I guess I don't really care about. I mean, as like I said, if it's not a spyware or they don't have malicious intent, I still don't care if it goes away.
Yeah, and that's not going to change.
Yep.
Well, they say everything you post on the internet lasts forever. Well, where the fuck are my MySpace photos?
I do have some general fears, though. I think, once the next administration takes hold, it's time to just start communicating everything through, encrypted apps and watch what you say, because I feel like, like I said, the metadata. That's what can get you. This
is a great point to bring up our sponsor for this episode, Signal, the encrypted messaging app. Not a sponsor, totally just kidding. Seriously, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your data.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into some more just fun questions. Who are your personal heroes? It could be celebrity or people you just know, like one or two.
That's a good question. My heroes are actually generally like superheroes to be
like honest. Actual heroes.
Yeah, I think so. Like I've always loved Superman, Spider-Man, Batman. Heroes. Oh man,
actual real world inspirational figures. For me, Kevin Smith is huge.
Sure.
In the creative, independent aspects.
I love film, and there's many movies that enriched my life. I think Steven Spielberg's up there. I always loved Steven Spielberg movies as a kid. That's a good point. I would say Scorsese's up there too.
Come on. Come on.
Heroes. There's lots of them that I have in art. H.R. Geiger was probably very, very influential to me to want to draw.
He was an illustrator, right?
Yeah, he's the guy that. So it goes back to the first scary movie I ever saw was the movie Alien, right? And H.R. Geiger is the guy that designed the xenomorph, and it was based on books and artwork of his, the whole look of all that. And he sort of is the father of biomechanical art, and so. That movie had a big impact on me, and I was obsessed about it. And as I grew older, I learned more about it and saw there was H.R. Geiger books based on the movie. Like he painted this book called the Necronomicon.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Geiger's Necronomicon.
Okay.
No, there's Geiger's Necronomicon, which is different from
okay.
But that kind of stuff, I just thought it was super inspiring. There's a lot of artists I look at as heroes. Some political, but it's hard for me to remember some of these names when I'm I'm a little stoned.
It's fine. Oh wait, it's okay. It's legal now.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
good.
yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like I think Frida Kahlo was a big hero of mine. She had an incredible life. She fought really hard to find her place in art. She was under the shadow of an inferior artist, I felt, and she's a big inspiration. Vincent van Gogh, absolute hero. If you've ever seen any of his paintings in person, there's something that radiates off them. You can't escape it, and maybe it's just me, but I know other people that have been in front of Van Gogh and they agree. Yeah. So something about it. He's probably my favorite artist of all time. Yep. So.
Tortured artist, cut off his ear.
Yeah. Yep.
So on that topic, like the link between creativity and insanity is very thin.
Oh yeah, the crazier you are, the better your art is.
Just flat out, like Picasso's my favorite, and like batshit motherfucker.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Well, on that topic, you mentioned film. Is there like one film or movie that was like really pivotal to your life? One that was like it had a huge impact.
Oh man.
Other than Alien.
Other
obviously.
than Alien, yeah. I think Space Odyssey.
2001.
Yeah, I think that was. I'm a big sci-fi nerd, and I think that has a large part of it. I love that movie, and then I think the best sci-fi movie after that was Interstellar, even though it's not very old. I think that movie's fucking amazing.
It's fucking great.
So that movie actually, I forget, it's like 10 years old, maybe 15 years old.
Really already?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it had a huge impact on me. It
still holds
up. I thought
up.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
So that's something that I watch every now and then.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I love sci-fi too.
Yes. Yep.
What is your most physical prized possession?
I would. Oh man, that's a tough one. Probably an Omega watch that I own. That I never wear it.
Omega, like the brand.
Omega,
like
yes.
really expensive watch.
Yeah, I mean they're expensive, but they're not like Rolex, expensive. They're not like $20,000-$30,000.
Okay.
No, I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000. But
why is that so?
So I'm a big fan of Bond movies. I should have brought that up about movies that were just kind of stuck in the.
Talking like Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan.
All of them. Yeah,
Okay.
I loved those movies as a kid, and so I followed the Bond all my life, and then it was GoldenEye. He always wore a Rolex, and Rolex is, everyone knows what a Rolex is, right? But when GoldenEye came out with Pierce Brosnan, it was the first time they deviated from that, and he wore an Omega.
And you were like,
and I was like, one day I'll have that. It was an Omega Seamaster, and that's sort of the classic Bond watch.
Okay.
And because if there was like one thing of Bond that I could own, it's the watch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get an Aston Martin.
no way.
I'm not getting cool spy tools.
You're not getting guns yeah.
So I wanted that watch, and then I think it was before or right after COVID. It was before COVID. I bit the bullet and bought it, and I fucking love it. It's the one he wears in Skyfall.
Okay.
It's the same one. So.
Good game, too.
Yeah.
If you've ever played the
I've never
Skyfall
played the
video
game.
game.
No,
Worth it.
All right.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, man. God, I was just talking about this with one of my friends. I loved, I remember going to the Harlem Globetrotters, and I thought it was one of the fucking coolest things ever.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I thought it was, but honestly, it's going to sound funny. So, my first concert ever is probably my favorite childhood memory. I think I was in 4th grade. It was Michael Jackson's Bad tour.
Oh, you went to Bad?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I gotta say that was fucking magical because as a kid, Michael Jackson was everything. I had Michael Jackson posters. I learned his dance moves. I had a 12-inch Michael Jackson figurine.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, it was super cool. So yeah.
Which outfit?
I think he was wearing the red leather.
The Thriller.
Yep. Or from Beat It. The Beat It.
Oh,
jacket.
the Beat It.
Yes,
Okay,
yep,
cool.
Yep. And so seeing that live was pretty incredible. I mean, he put on a really good show.
Yeah.
And Fortunately, I wasn't too close because I was in that age bracket that I guess Michael liked right around that time. So
I was about to say, you don't have Michael Jackson bed sheets, do you?
I'll put it. No, I don't. I'll put it this way: like the guys that made those movies with the documentaries, they're the same age as me. Same, same tour.
Macaulay Culkin's like,
Yeah. Well, that was even later.
Yeah.
But no, the bad tour era. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So, but it was awesome. It was one of my favorite memories as a kid.
yeah. So has music been really influential your whole life?
Yeah, I think it's odd when I hear about people that don't really care about music.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've always been a big fan of music. Yeah, for sure.
If you could have dinner, if you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, Albert Einstein.
Einstein?
Yeah,
Really? Why?
Hands down. I think he's just fascinating. Fascinating. I've read a couple of biographies about him, and I just think he would be the most interesting person to talk to ever. Yeah.
I mean, he was kooky. He was a little.
Yeah.
He didn't really care what anyone thought, and he was in his own world.
No, and it's not like we would have a deep talk about physics because I know nothing about physics.
You just want to get to know him.
But yeah, I just would like to just shoot the shit with Albert Einstein.
Totally.
Just seems like a really cool guy.
That's a solid fucking answer. I love that one.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest achievement in life so far?
I think my son, like, it's a pretty easy answer. Like, I think he's turned out great, and so I think that's a product of his mother and myself. He's not without his own struggles, but overall, he's turned into a kid that I'm very proud of as far as who he is as a person, his attitude, and how he approaches life and others around him.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
for sure.
And you had a big influence on that. Yeah.
I hope so.
You did.
Yeah. Yep.
On the flip of that, what's your biggest regret so far in life, if you have any?
Oh man. Oh god. I guess I don't really think in those terms, but I'm sure I probably have a few. There's a few regrets. I think as much as I love tattooing, I think my biggest regret was not really taking the time to think about what I wanted to do in life moving forward. Like, there's so many, as I've gotten older, I look back and go, God, I would have really liked to have done that. And I should have put my energy into that. But when I was young, I didn't know or think of that. Right. Yep, exactly.
Totally.
So
I can feel that one.
Yes, yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's pretty natural.
Yeah.
Yep.
What role, if any, has spirituality or religion played in your life? Are you a believer? Are you?
Well, I mean, I was, a little bit religious growing up, but my mom evolved along with her, with me on that. Kind of was considered atheist for a good lion's share of my life, but I started getting into mindfulness meditation about 10 years ago, and that led me into like strong interest in Buddhism. I was actually what's that? Oh yeah. strong interest in Buddhism, and explored that. It's easy to sort of call myself Buddhism, but it's more of or Buddhist. It's more of a discipline and sort of so I would say I lean towards that more than anything. But I don't know, and I guess agnostic is probably the right term, because
no one knows.
No one knows. Every day you learn something new about like quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and it really makes you question all of it. So it's like, maybe there's a God, maybe it's just a big code. Who knows?
Oh, just this last month, did you see the articles about quantum computing where the scientists are now like, we're pretty sure parallel universes exist?
Yeah, because the power that
it's impossible.
Because like qubits or whatever they're called, they have to borrow them from
somewhere
other dimensions.
Else?
Yes, exactly.
No, I agree with you.
And then the ones that won the Nobel Prize a few years ago in physics, they discovered that entanglement was a real thing.
Yeah.
Yep. The quantum entanglement exists. Yeah.
We're learning new stuff.
Yeah.
All the time.
So maybe all signs point to God. Maybe it points to code. Who knows?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, so we're talking simulation versus creation.
Yes.
I agree with you. I identify as spiritual, but I'm a practitioner of Buddhism.
Yeah.
I think Buddhism isn't a religion. It's more of like a user's hand guide.
Sure.
Of like how to get by. How to deal with the shit.
I didn't know this about you. Interesting.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
All right, just a couple more questions. Thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been really great getting to chat with you.
Yeah, for sure.
If you had one piece of advice that you could pass down to future generations, like the last dying words, don't do this, or like fear the reaper or something, what would that be?
Explore your decisions before you make a choice. I think, really take time to pause and think before you do anything, say or act. I think it helps to slow down. Maybe this kind of is what I found in Buddhism that I really like, is try not to let your emotions dictate your actions. Really try to find a center. And I think, if everyone's life becomes a little less complicated if they're able to sort of make decisions with this, like a sober mindset. So, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
All right, last question. This one's the hardest one of the
All right.
Q&A. Would you kick a puppy as hard as you possibly could, knowing full well that puppy's probably going to die, to save 100 people's lives?
Yeah, I probably would. As much as I love puppies, I probably would kick a single baby to save 100 puppies' lives. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the only fair answer I could think of. The greater good, right? That's kind of what we should look for. But yeah, I would hate doing it, and I couldn't live with myself. I mean, I once drove over a cat by mistake, and it was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
And yet you'd still kick the puppy. If you do nothing, they're going to die. But it's not your action causing their death. It's your inaction.
Yeah, I know. I think I would. Yeah, I think I would still kick the puppy. I hate it, but I couldn't live with the death of hundreds of people on my head. Yeah. I just couldn't. That'd be worse.
You might get a little hate in the chat. But
yeah,
you're the first person to say kick the puppy.
Really? Well, but like I said, my initial reaction is kick the puppy, because it really is, because I generally like puppies more than people. But and if I saw a homeless man being pulled out of the snow dead, frozen, I would think that's unfortunate. But if I saw a puppy being pulled out of the snow frozen, I would lose my shit.
Fuck up your whole day.
But really thinking about that, I'm thinking about a room full of 100 people crying and looking at you, wanting not to die, and knowing that all those people have family and children and loved ones that make a real impact in the world around you.
You couldn't live with it.
I couldn't live with it. Yeah. So I have a good reason. I would regrettably kick the puppy.
It's fine, man.
Yeah, all right.
It's an ethics question.
Yes.
It's I appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Do you have a mantra or a motto? Do you have that you live by, just to pass on to people? Something that you repeat in your head, like when you're talking about mindfulness. Is there one phrase or sentence that you'll say to yourself when shit's really tough? It is what it is, or whatever.
Yeah, wash your bowls. It's a Buddhist koan. If you're unfamiliar with it,
I am unfamiliar.
Yeah. Look into it. I don't know if you've explored koans, but it's a meditative practice. It's Buddhism. Yeah, and it's an old koan, and I'm butchering it because I don't know it by heart. But essentially, there's a young priest in a monastery that asks his master, on the first day he's there, if he said, how soon or what's the real road, what's the path to enlightenment? And he looks down at him and says, well, did you finish eating your supper? And he said, yes. Well, then wash your bowls. And that's it. And the concept of it is, no matter what's going on, you have to do what's next. Yeah. Do what's in front of you. So that's the one I repeat to myself if I need to motivate to do something. Just wash your bowls.
Wash your bowls.
Get it done. Yep.
I'm gonna take that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, because the reward is the practice. So
yeah, it's just staying grounded in the present moment.
Yep. Exactly.
What can you do right now?
Yep.
It's amazing, man. Hey, thanks
so
much.
No problem.
It's been great. Last thing is, can I get a picture? Throw you on the wall, Legends.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Where do I go? Right
Pose
here.
however you want.
Wall of Legends.
Yeah. I know. Brilliant.
I like that it's Polaroid too. That's good.
Gotta. Well, thank you so much, Adam.
Thanks.
It's been great.
Yeah.